going to be thanking your addicted self. Just to let you know who I am, if you don't already know us, my name is Ashley Bloxham. I'm a therapist. I specialise in childhood and trauma and addiction. I've also overcame addiction, and I've also studied it right up to PhD level. And I've also had loved ones who struggled with addiction as well. So I've got a full view of addiction and I'm here to support anybody who needs it. So tonight's topic is all about thanking your addicted self. I think one of the things that is common when we come out of addiction is that we still hold on to shame for the person who we were when we were struggling with addiction. And it's almost like this idea of, if I leave my addiction, then I become this good person. I'm doing air quotes because I don't believe in such thing as good and bad people. And that old version of myself was bad. I didn't like my behaviours. It's somebody who I was ashamed of. And I think it's really important that we hold compassion for either that previous version of ourselves who had an addiction, or if we're currently in addiction, that version of ourselves right now. Because it's really hard to live a life that's fulfilling if we're still berating the version of ourselves which got us to there, because we're still clinging on to that shame. And when we cling on to shame, it's not something that's like, hi, just to let you know, I'm your shame. We don't know it's there. It's buried in our subconscious and we just carry it around. So a good way to thank that version of yourself is to either, if it was a past version, is to sit there and write a list, either write or say out loud, but preferably I'd say write a letter of all the things that you're grateful of, all the things that you were doing which drove you to the version you are today. And you can give it a really nice name. So I always think of myself as that was my protector. It protected us from all the rubbish and the shit which was going on in life, and it got us through that and allowed us to be the person I am today. So you thank it. If you're in active addiction, you can sit there and say all the things that you're grateful of that you're doing today, which is going to help a future version of yourself. And if you don't feel that grateful towards yourself, make a list of things that you're going to start doing today and tomorrow and the next day, which is going to be something you're going to be grateful of. And that could be as simple as learning to love yourself. I say simple, I think that was massively downgrading how hard it is to love yourself, but I'm going to learn to love myself. I'm going to do harm reduction. I'm going to do these things that the future me is going to be proud of. Right, I'm going to say what people are saying. I'll try and weave the topic back in so I can keep a little bit of structure if possible. Hi, Psychedelic, how you doing? And Robert Stubbins, it's nice to see you coming back. How you doing, Robert? Because I know you said that you've reached out for support recently, so how's that going for you? And hi, Gav. You are cute, thank you. This is very cute what I'm wearing at the moment. It's got a little teddy bear and it's the most snuggliest thing in dressing gown in the world. Right, 1985. Hi, intoxicated girl. I am not intoxicated. If you'd spoke to us 4 years ago, I would have 100% been intoxicated. Valid. All of you Australians have the same voice. You're just a replica of Steve Irwin. Right. I'm not Australian. So apparently me and all the Australians sound like Steve Irwin. Oh, God. 1985, you can help. 1985 is saying, listen, I can help you. I'd love to hear it. Oh, hi, Guy. How are you doing? Good afternoon. Okay, good day, mate, if I'm going with the Australian accent. Scary, Scarphilia, hi, how are you doing again? It's like, I feel like everybody who's confident in it is my, like, literally come to most lives, and I love it. I am here for that. It's my little community. How are you doing? You're Welsh, from your Welsh, I thought you were saying I'm a Welsh flower then. That's because I'm dyslexic. Your Welsh follower, yeah. Scoffy's my Welsh follower. Some people think I'm Welsh. I appreciate having a legit Welsh person in the following crew. 1985, you talk every time intoxicated talk. So what I'm doing is I talk about addiction, and I'm not intoxicated whilst talking about my intoxication, but I'm just trying to spread a little bit of joy, give a little bit of guidance, create a space where people can just hash it out. My main goal is to just let go of shame, because I'm telling you now, if you can release shame and you can learn to love yourself and reduce harm, that is the path you need to be on in recovery. So yeah, or sustainable recovery, because I think there's a difference between recovery and sustainable recovery. So, are you from Australia? I'm not from Australia, no. I'm from Newcastle in the north of England. Very different place. A lot colder. A lot colder. Scarfie, I'm 100% a values boy. I was going to try and do a Welsh accent then. I'm not very good at it though. I'm not very good at any accents, except for apparently my accent sounds like a million different accents. 1985 says, no, people make fun, you know. What do you mean by that? Like make fun of someone or have fun? So, Guy said subscribe. Yes, please. That would be so helpful. If anyone's got any questions around addiction or mental health, I am a therapist, by the way. So, and I specialise in those two things. So I don't specialise in mental health. I suppose I do, but I specialise in trauma and childhood. So if anyone's got any questions, please do ask us some, and I'll do my best to answer. I'll also answer questions about Australia, though, with the little knowledge I know of it. Oh, hello, Chris Warrior for Jesus. How you doing? Oh, I'm going to put you as moderator because we spoke about this. Add as moderator. There we go. Yay. I haven't replied to your message, by the way. I've actually wrote a poem that was right. So me and Warrior have been speaking on my shorts about poetry writing, because I had posted a poem that I wrote, and I'm going to tie it into addiction, don't worry. I'm not just going to natter about my poem. But we've been talking about writing poetry, and it's one of the things that really helped us get through my addiction. I'm not saying you need to go out and write poetry, but just finding something that you enjoy. I literally wrote poetry, and the only time I wrote it was in my addiction recovery. So just finding something where you can channel that energy into is really helpful. And if you're creative, get creative with it. If you're more physical, then do something more physical, like physical activity, sport, gym. There's somebody who does a Strava group, and they said that the majority of people on there are addicts in recovery or ex-addicts. So yeah, but Warrior, me and Warrior spoke about writing poetry, and I was saying I only wrote it when I was in recovery, and we both said about how it's quite hard to channel that kind of intensity and energy when you're happy. And I saw that as challenge accepted, so I've just wrote my first poem in my happy life, so I might send it to you. It's going to go in my book. Anyways, let's see what other people are saying, because I'm sure not everyone wants to know about me bloody poetry writing, let's be real. Guy has said, Ashley, it's meant to go -11 in a week's time where you are, for God's sake. I can believe it. I can absolutely believe it. It was freezing today. So cold. Scarfilia saying, what is the capital of Australia? The only place I can think of in Australia is Sydney. I don't think that is the capital of Australia. Maybe it is, I don't know. And the only reason why I'm thinking of that, because this is where my knowledge starts and ends of Australia, is because of Finding Nemo. I have got family who live in Australia, but I know nothing about it. Right. So 1985 is saying, earlier I was also an intoxicated person, you know, but now I'm not. Please talk to me. Yeah, 1985. Will you do us a favour, if you're up for the challenge, let us know, and anyone who's listening, what your top tip is for getting you from being intoxicated or not. Because I'm interested to hear. I think that's one of the great things, is like the best people you can ask for support with addiction recovery are those who are recovered. Russell Brand says this, and it's so true. Um, Psychedelic, how's your dates been going, by the way? I'm like being very nosy over here, but I'm like I love love and I'm all for your dating life for some reason. Valid, hi, I'm sure you've been on before, Valid. Pretty sure. Valid is saying, why does the crocodile hunter have such a bumpy English accent? I do not know. I don't know. Let us know. You're going to have to write that in again, though, because I will forget the beginning of it. So write the full thing and the answer. Mark, what is the weather like in England? It's really nice. I love the weather in England. I thank you for the some little party hats people are giving us, by the way. Appreciate them. So we'll have like really distinct seasons. I say really distinct. When it's hot, it's not the hottest in the world, but it's nice. And it's just like, I think we'll have really good, like lush greenery everywhere because we've got a good amount of rain. But we'll have all the things, all the seasons, all the weathers. I love it though. A lot of people whinge about it, but I love it. 1985, please talk to me. I have a little question first. Yeah, please ask us the question. Warriors, amazing, love it. I assume you're talking about the poetry. I haven't read yours actually. I've just remembered there you sent someone LinkedIn, didn't you? I don't ever go on LinkedIn, so I'll have to log into it. Right, Phil, you're just getting called Philly. If I can't say your name in 2 seconds, you're getting assigned a new one, so don't take offence, please. So Philly, your English is very good. Where did you learn this? Guys, can I just say I was born in England, so that sounds like it should be a compliment. If I was born elsewhere in a different country, but I wasn't, I was born in England, so that is not a compliment. I'm from Newcastle, and Newcastle just has a bit of a ropey accent. Right, Psychedelic said, I wrote a poem, but in German, one about alcohol, one about cannabis. I'd love to hear it. I don't know how I would get that though, but did you find it cathartic, Psychedelic? And have you already always written poetry? Because that was the thing, I never wrote poetry, mate. I remember writing a poem when I was a kid, once. And for some reason, when I came in my addiction recovery, I just started writing poetry for no reason. And it was so helpful. But I think this is where even journaling can come in handy. Just something to get how you're feeling out of you and putting language to it was just so healing. And in mine, I felt like I'd written how I felt inside and I turned it into something that I was proud of, and that was really cathartic. And the poem itself actually was aimed at, it was giving myself voice for how I felt, how people had mishandled my addiction. And I'm not blaming them. I think generally as a society we see addiction as a moral failing, and it was a way of channeling all that hurt. But I would say you can channel in any way if you're struggling with addiction. If you can write and you do poetry, I would say do it. Psychedelic, was it helpful to you? That's the question I want to ask, if you're still on writing your addiction, your poetry, because it was about alcohol and one about cannabis. But it can be really helpful and healing, but we can just channel that energy into something where you feel proud of yourself. Because ultimately, if we take poetry away as the activity, and if we replace it with what it really is I created something I was proud of at a time where I was feeling very little pride towards myself. I felt like an absolute failure. And I was watching Spencer Matthews. He did a really good podcast appearance on Fern Cotton's Happy Place today, and he was talking about his addiction, and he said, I felt like a loser. And that feeling is not a nice feeling to be in. So it's about doing something where you feel like you're winning. Right, let's see what people are saying. Dazzler TV, hello. I've always been an alcoholic all my life, but no one would ever think that. I want to stop, but it's so hard. Dazzler, do you want to have a one-to-one? I can sit there because I'm an addictions therapist. I don't want to say I'm going to give you therapy, but what I can do is give you a one-to-one and try and get a plan together for you. But yeah, I was a functioning addict. Nobody had any idea until I decided to tell people. And it's a really hard place to be in because addiction thrives in secrecy, but equally it's really hard to make the right steps. And what I learned is it's actually very important that you're opening up with the right people, the people who can hold space for your addiction and help you move through it. But I can absolutely give you an hour. If you want that, just comment on any of my content, like one-to-one or support group. I'm also doing a free support group. Also, that is free if I didn't mention as well. I'm not going to charge. But yeah, I really get that. It is hard, Dazzler, and I think I wouldn't wish addiction on anyone. I don't think, unless you've been through it or you're going through it, I don't think people can fathom just how hard it is. And especially when it's so lonely, especially when you're a functioning addict like I was. I was struggling with addiction. I was functioning and nobody had any idea. I was a therapist, for God's sake. I was helping other people and I was struggling with addiction, and it's so hard. But it absolutely is something you can get out of. And there's like people on here tonight who's done it as well. So like it's not an illusion. But yeah, I would say though, Dazzler, if you don't want that one-to-one, I would say just try and work on loving yourself. Like do little acts of kindness towards yourself and try and work out why you've got an addiction and try and be kind to yourself in that process. Right. So Mark, it's cold here too. Where are you, Mark? 1985, yes. Yes, I don't do everything. Listen first, you just took intoxicated thing right. I don't know what you mean by that. I feel like you've been a little bit cryptic, 1985. Can we just like, can you give us it in a nutshell, please? Because I'm trying to read it out loud and I'm not picking up what you're putting down and I want to. Right, peanut butter, nice to see you again. Does like AA 12 steps save my life? Yeah, addiction groups is one of the best things you can do because you're opening up. So you're saying it's something you've been doing all the time by yourself, and opening up to people and having legit strategies to move forward is one of the best things you can do. And I am running my own support group, and I'd say do both. Like there's no amount of support that is too much. But I'm running my own support group as well, if that's something you want to do. Scarphilia, faith and support from fellow people who have been through it. The best support. Fuck clowns who've got a degree from a book and think they can cure you. They can't. Could not agree more. Literally what I've just said, except for the fuck clowns who've got to think they've got a degree. I was that clown who had a degree and nothing I'd learned worked with us, and I was terrified. Guys, I was literally thinking, I know all the tricks in the book. I've studied this. I'm a therapist, for God's sake. And none of it's working. So then I started to get into this place where I felt like, oh my God, if nothing's working that I've been taught, then I'm incurable. And it wasn't. It's exactly what Scarfy said. You need faith, whether that's faith in the future version of yourself who's going to get you to where you need to be. Faith is support of other people who've been through it. Russell Brand says this all the time and he's a massive advocate for AA and NA. And what he says is, if you need to learn anything in life, go and find a mentor, somebody who's been there and done that. And AA and NA is full of them. Like the majority of people who are there have done it, and they stay and motivate other people. So yeah, 100% agree with Scarphilia. 1985, then you didn't tell anyone, and if you have left, why do you talk on it? Are you talking about why do I talk about addiction recovery? I think that's what you're asking. So one of the things for me why I'm doing what I'm doing. So what the reason I've just said there, I've trained to be an addictions therapist, and I was already studying counselling and addiction when I fell into addiction. And the reason why I started that journey is because I'd experienced what it's like for a loved one to go through addiction. And it was so painful. And I thought, I want to help people so that they don't have to experience, like, nobody has to experience that pain at the hand of somebody who's addicted. Then I developed my own addiction during my training because I started unearthing loads of trauma. I've spoke about this a lot, so I'm not going to go into detail. But what I realised when I developed my own addiction is I had been judging and shaming the person who had addiction, thinking if I could help somebody so somebody else doesn't have to feel what I went through. And I had zero compassion, zero understanding for what that person felt like. And then I was so fucking humbled by going through addiction myself that I realised actually how I was feeling and thinking then was not the way to help someone with addiction. So the reason why I'm doing this isn't because I'm intoxicated, it's because I've got both the understanding from a textbook, degrees, but I've also got lived experience, and I'm trying to funnel that together to help people who are like the loved one who was struggling with addiction and like that version of me who was struggling with addiction. So I'm not intoxicated, I'm just trying to pass, I guess, help people who felt like I felt because it was fucking shit. And Dazzler, like, honestly, I've got so much empathy for you because it is shit, but it is absolutely doable. And honestly, I just think listening to people who have been through it in AA meetings or support groups or whatever is a good first step. Right. So I hope that's answered your question, 1985. Dazzler, thanks, Peanut. Yeah, thanks, Peanut. I love it when the recovery veterans help people in active addiction because that's exactly what we need. So anyone who's in recovery, could you please just give us your top tips if you want to? Obviously, you don't have to. Scarphelia, it was a beautiful poem. What was a beautiful poem? Mark, winter has already broken out here. Where are you, Mark? I don't think, have you told us? I don't know. And yeah, we're in autumn now, but we're close to winter. But do you know what else is also broken out tomorrow? And I can't wait, Christmas market. And I'm going with my friend, and then I'm going to go see Mackenzie Mackay, which I'm so excited about. Scarphelia, that you. And that, oh, the poem I did. Are you talking about my poem? 1985, an intoxicated thing is to love yourself. Yeah, love yourself is so important. I think that's the thing. Like, I think that was the missing link. All the tips and tricks in the world that I've learned just did not work because ultimately I did not love myself. And there's no way that I could have gotten sober just off tips and tricks alone. I just had to learn to love myself. And this is why groups like AA are really important, because if you can sit there in a group and listen to people, like person after person, say, this is what I did, this is what I went through, and there's no shame in that, and this is the way forward, you start to dismantle shame in yourself because you get to say, oh, well, I'm finding that person inspiring, and maybe I've got the option to see myself as inspiring, and all I need to do is get to that place. And right now, I'm just where they were. So, like, loving yourself is so key. Get intoxicated on yourself, guys. Does that? I definitely need help. Well, just comment on any of my content, like my shorts or X lives, and I'll get a notification, and I'll give you my email address, and I'll try and support you in any way I can. But yeah, I'll definitely say peanut butter's right. Get into a group. I want to caveat that though, because Chris Warrior is saying peanut butter, getting into a group that you can trust and expose the dark parts you keep hidden takes away the power. Yeah. And guys, I'm running my own therapy therapeutic group, not therapy group, addiction group. And what Warrior's just said is the whole group is based around that. So, and it's also got that support group mentality. So if anyone wants to be involved in my support group, it's free. Comment on any of my content. But yeah, it's all about taking away the power. And this is the thing. The reason why I talk about shame so much is because shame is so disempowering. And if we can give ourselves grace and pour love into ourselves, we're going to be able to get away from it, because like Warrior says, it takes away the power. You know, does like the fact that you sat here saying, I've got a problem, is taking away the power that living in secrecy has over you. Like, that's such a brilliant step. And I think, like, give yourself praise where praise is due. And when I started to get sober, it was little steps of saying to people, I've got a problem. It was that open honesty that I didn't dare tell myself. And if you look at addiction recovery, there's a model called the Wheel of Change. So it starts off with denial. And the idea is you go through these stages, and look it up, see where you are. But you go through these stages toward recovery. So it starts with denial, ends with recovery. And you're in this ambivalent stage. So you've already made progress toward recovery. So don't say it like, I'm stuck. Say it like, I'm progressing. I'm getting around that wheel. And a big step is moving out of denial and saying, I've got a problem, I need help. That is a thing that you're doing now that a future version of you will be so fucking grateful for. So try and have gratitude towards yourself now. Right, so I'm going to scroll up. There's a lot of comments, so I'm going to scroll to the bottom because I want to try and give everyone a fair chance of the comments being seen. But I've got to say, guys, thank you so much for all the comments, because there's only like 20 odd people on and you're sending loads. So I really appreciate that, because if not, I'd just be, I don't know what I'd be doing. I wouldn't be here. Right. Also, thanks, Warrior, for holding the fort for us, and Guy, if you're still here. I can't see which moderators are on. Oh yeah, Guy, you are there. In fact, I might as well read Guy's comment. Ashley, I've been through it, same as you. I just don't have degrees like you, but I'm proud you have degrees. Good on you, girl. Do you know what is? I think the only thing that the degrees do is it just means that, like, I have people who come in my lives and they're like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, well, I think anybody who's been through recovery and through addiction knows what they're fucking talking about. But actually, I've got 2 degrees and a master's, so crack on. I think that's the only difference between me and you, Guy, because realistically, there's only one way through it. Like, there might be different variations of that, but like, I call it school of addiction because I've been schooled in addiction, and I didn't get schooled in addiction any other way than getting through it. But I think one thing I'm realising as well when I'm coming on these lives, there's a lot of people in recovery, and I think every single person, when I ask them, what do you need to get yourself through it, says one of these 3 things, which is all around facing your inner, doing the inner work. It's an inside job. Learning to love yourself and be kind to yourself, support, and looking after your health. And I think every single person I've asked, it's went into one of those 4 categories. Right. Warrior, faith is so great. It actually says in scripture that we are not tempted by anything that others have not experienced, meaning you are not alone. Yeah. I think one of the things, and I think this is one of the things about addiction, is you feel alone. You feel like you're the only person fucking up. You feel horrendous, and that's not true. Like, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody gets it wrong. And actually, I would argue that addiction is something that is really difficult and deserves the opposite of being shame. It's just about saying, okay, I've screwed up here, in the sense of not that I've done something wrong, but I've went down a path that is actually completely in the wrong direction and very difficult to get out of. And knowing that you're not the only person who's done it, you're not going to be the only person who does it. and there's other people out there who've been there and done that who can help you out of it, is actually really comforting. So I agree with that. 1985 be thirsty peanut butter. I know. Lewis Running Channel. Hello, how are you? I'm good. Are you the person who does Strava? Lewis Running Channel. I feel like if you are, I've actually referenced you tonight. Thanks for everyone who's given us some hearts. I really enjoy that. It's helpful. Duncan, the English gent. Hi again. How are you doing? Anyone who is commenting on and expressing their issues, that is a huge step, and you should be proud of your self-respect. Massive. Do you know, it's so disarming to whatever problem you're going through, whatever thing you've done that you feel rubbish about. It's so disarming to sit there and talk about it. And there's so many people who sit there and say therapy's bad. I do think that therapy isn't the be all and end all, but there's something so disarming about sitting in a safe space and saying like, this is my struggles, or this is what I've went through. It just takes the power out of it. So yeah, 100% agree. I'm just going to scroll about at random. I'm going to go like to middle and back, so save people. Thanks, Warrior, for telling Daz to let a comment on my group. That's really helpful. Right. Psychedelic. Poem about cannabis. I wrote it in 2 weeks, and then about alcohol. I tried another still. I started with Paul. Paul is the real name of a German rapper, and he was addicted. Also, and his interview helps me. I love that. I think that's oh God, what's the name of it? Is it like where it's an acronym, like PAUL, or is that just where your inspiration started? I wrote a full dissertation on Johan Hari's TED Talks. Like, I think this is the thing. Like, that rapper's been a massive inspiration to you, but somebody who's doing something creative, even you writing your poem, might be a massive inspiration to another person. This is where I think if you are creative, when you're in addiction recovery, or even to get you out of it, doing something creative can be really helpful. Oh, I nearly put 1985 as me moderator then. Right, don't want to be doing that. Let's see what you're saying. Listen, you are so beautiful. Never ever try to alcohol and all things. Are you saying alcohol? 1985. I don't know what you're saying there. Could you rewrite that? Oh, and I call the poem Paul. I love that. Are you planning on putting it out there? Psychedelic. I remember when I read my poem out to two of my friends who were in active addiction, and they were like, that was like exactly how I felt. And then one of my friends who I read it to, he said, spoke about telling his mom. So I read the poem out to his mom, and she got really upset, and she was like crying, and she said that was really helpful to know what my son's going through. So I think like if you've gone through addiction, articulating it in a way like through your poem Paul can be super helpful for people. But I don't know if you're just keeping it for yourself or not. Right, I'm just going to go through. Evan Barnett, I'm pretty sure you've been here before. Pretty sure. Oh, Evan Barnett, sorry. Dyslexic guides. YouTube names just are not accessibility friendly for dyslexia. Evan has said, talk with God, read his word, receive regeneration with him. It's impossible without. I will argue against it. I am spiritual, and my grandpa was a vicar. I come from a whole line of vicars, and I've got mass respect for religion and spirituality. What I will say though, just to caveat that, I think it's impossible to get through it without faith in something bigger than yourself. That doesn't need to be in a higher power. And Russell Brand, who advocates for AA and NA, is like really pushing this. Just being bigger, having faith in something bigger than yourself, whether that's planet Earth, whether that's humanity, whether that's being part of a collective of people who've been through addiction, and I'm going to join that group. It's just, I think addiction, we feel so isolated. We feel so alone. We feel like this one awful, lonely person, and there's so much shame attached to it. And when we can broaden that out to having faith in, actually, I'm a human being having a human experience, and there's a lot of human beings out there that I can connect with, or whether that's having faith in some higher power, religion or spirituality, it actually is so helpful to your recovery. Just forget to make understand about all those things. Like forgetting what? 1985, you're talking in riddles. I'm like, can you just... Right, I need context, please. Because if not, it just feels like words. I know that's not what you're meaning. I know there's a loss in translation here, but can you just put a bit of context in for us? Right, Guy. Oh, you've already said what? I've already read that one. So, right, I'm going to go to the bottom. I'm going to try and just... Oh, Eternally Secure Rocker, how are you doing? There are some addicts that have religious trauma and unable to put their trust in Jesus or God at this time. Yeah, really important point. And this is why I've had conversations with Warrior about this, is it's really important for me that this isn't a faith-based channel, and that's why I do really respect faith, and that's why Warrior's my moderator on here, because he is like gonna help people who were taught about faith, because I don't want to ignore people. It's more like exactly what Eternally Secure Rocker said. There's people who've had trauma, religious-based trauma, and you know, like even looking at my dad, I don't know this for certain, but my dad was adopted, and all we can do is hazard a guess, but a lot of adoption was done through the church and stuff like that, and we just don't know. There's people who've been really traumatized by it. And on a different standpoint as well, there's some people who are agnostic, and you know, coming to a place to talk about addiction, they probably just, if they're agnostic, it might put them off. And I don't want to scare someone away. I really don't want to scare someone away, because that's not the intention. So all beliefs are welcome. But yeah, I think that's a really good point that Attorney Secure Rocker is mentioning. So thank you for that. And Warrior has said, that's why we need to come by their side and walk with them, not forcing them to keep our pace. 100%, yeah. And I think this is the thing. It's like, I'm spiritual and I love talking spiritual stuff with people who are spiritual, but I just, like, for me, I'm just gunning for the human race. And I think that's enough. So yeah. Psychedelic. It's hard to translate it in English because I've got in full rhymes. Yeah, no, 100% get that. I think that's one of the things as well. It's quite hard to get that rhythm, isn't it? And rhymes. Are you German then, Psychedelic? For some reason, I thought you were English. My dad always says that assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups. I think there's probably worse fuck-ups I've had in my life, though, than assuming where psychedelic's from. But yeah, don't assume, guys. Duncan, did you see my quote above? It's my favourite. No, I haven't. I will find it. Duncan. Oh, it's lost in millions of comments. Do you mind sending it again, please? And I'll go back down to the bottom. Sorry, because I know you've already said it. But I'm struggling to find it. Marek, hello again. How you doing? Hi, Ashley. Do you know that feeling? I'm tired to be tired. When it's just a space for positive energy. I remember when I realised that I have to transmute urges and lust into exercises. Yeah, do you mean like physical activity? And I do know the feeling of I'm tired of being tired. It's horrible. But yeah, I think, do you know what it is? All the things that you can't be bothered to do when you're tired, or all the things that are going to stop you from being tired. And I think sometimes, though, it's just about thinking, right, I know that exercise, food, minimizing stress, calming the nervous system, eating well, I've already said food, sleep is all going to help us stop feeling tired of it so hard. So just taking little steps toward that. So I've been doing something recently, actually. So I eat really well, and what I was finding is I've been really unwell, and to make food when I'm tired and unwell was just so difficult. So then I was skipping meals and I was constantly unwell. You'll notice if you've been here for a while, I've been unwell for about a month. So I've decided, okay, what one little step can I do towards eating well again, because I know it's helpful. And I've just went online and I've started ordering my food to be delivered by Planty. And it's like this, it's all like cooked. It's got everything I need in my diet because I'm a vegetarian. And I just literally it's frozen, but it's healthy. It's actually locks in the nutrients a bit more. And I just put it in the microwave. And it's so easy, that one little step, outsourcing my food to somebody who knows what the fuck they're doing and can be bothered to do it. And it's made a massive difference. 1985. I've been in a rehabilitation centre for 3 times, you know. Has it been helpful? 1985, what has helped you? Don't you read? I do, I'm dyslexic. I do read. I actually enjoy reading. I'm just, like, from my brain to my mouth, there's some kind of disconnect going on. Right, I'm going to go to the bottom and see if Duncan has said that thing again. Dr. Edith Eger. I think that's how you say that. There is no hierarchy of suffering. There's nothing that makes my pain worse or better than yours. 100%. My dad said something to us. He used to say something to us all the time. And he was saying it's all relative. And he said, imagine somebody who's a hedge fund manager, and they've got so much stress from the job. And then he said, imagine a little old lady, and she doesn't have much in life, but her biggest thing that she's got is to buy the perfect card. And she might find it so stressful because she wants to get this perfect card. And the person who's the hedge fund manager needs to buy a birthday card. Now, they're not experiencing the buying of the birthday card the same, but what he's experiencing in his work is just as stressful as what the lady's experiencing for the card. And what he meant by that is it's all relative. We all have different things that stress us out. And it's not to say that my thing that stresses us out is any worse than the stress that you're feeling with yours. And just as Edith Edgar and Duncan have said, there's no hierarchy of suffering. There's nothing that makes my pain worse or better than yours. Like, we're all experiencing pain, and we all have, and we all will. And it's just about giving ourselves grace and giving others grace for their pain. 1985, tell me about your English accent there, beautiful girl. It's Geordie from Newcastle, but I've got a bit of a posh twang. I speak like I speak to my child when I'm on this thing, just so that you can try and understand us a little bit better. Right. Inspirational ambivert. She's answering what she can. Yeah, thank you. I am. I'm trying my best, guys. There's been quite a lot of comments, which is a very good position to be in. But if there's anyone that I'm not answering your comments, I know that my moderators are doing a brilliant job, because I've selected them all, or they've offered, and they're all great and equally qualified to talk to you. So, yeah. Unknown private. I'm sure you were on before as well. If you were, pretty sure you were on yesterday. Not yesterday, sorry, Monday. But anyways, hello, how are you doing? There's a thing going around kindergartens, and they are talking about putting Bible studies into a subject. Is this even fucking possible? I be teaching my kids false religions. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, I don't like that. My grandpa was a vicar, guys, and he didn't even, we got to choose if we wanted to be christened, and we chose that we wanted to at the age of 13, me and my sister. My grandpa never preached to anyone. He just literally said, if somebody wants to come to me, if somebody's interested in that, then I'll absolutely talk to them, but I'm not going to throw something down someone's throat that they don't want to hear. And if a vicar had that mentality, why are schools not? Especially when you've got mixed religions. Because this is why I'm spiritual. I just think my grandpa is so extremely intelligent. What's to say that that really intelligent person who's Hindu is right or wrong? Because somebody's got to be right or wrong. So I'm just kind of on the fence. And I just think it's rubbish. Psychedelic, you can't compare pain with pain. Exactly. You can't. And look, let's be real. Like, what psychedelic's talking about is pain and suffering is all just... pain is how our bodies experience suffering. And it might be that we re-experience it, like past pain in the present moment. It might be that it gets triggered. But it's all the same thing. We're all experiencing fight or flight. We're all experiencing all these different biochemicals going off in our bodies and our brains when we experience pain. So it's exactly the same. It's just the suffering varies. So I think this is why what my experience is, a lot of people who've been through addiction recovery who I've met have been so empathetic because they know what it's like to feel pain and suffering because they've felt it lightly for a long period of time. So yeah. Attorney Secure Rocker, Ashley, your grandpa sounds like a wonderful believing man. Yeah, he was great. He was so funny though. He was just not your typical vicar, which I think is why he resonated with so many people. He was funny. I remember this, right, this is to give you an example of what my grandpa was like. I remember I had this lad I was seeing, this boy, and I thought he was the love of my life. Oh, it's just like, at the time I thought it was the best thing ever. And I broke up with him and I was devastated. And my grandpa turned around to us and he said, play the field. And I was just like, what? And he went, well, what do you think I was doing in the Navy? Like, your grand's not the only person I've slept with. And I was like, great, grandpa. It's like a vicar giving his advice to go and play the field. But yeah, he was just very real. He was great. Inspirational Ambivert says, all religions point to one source, my opinion only, of course. Yeah. And I think, but I'm going to caveat that, right? So I'm going to offer an alternative explanation that I sometimes think about, that I saw, just in case we've got agnostic people. I'm going to defend the agnostics on here. So I saw this thing and it was on a documentary, potentially David Attenborough, potentially not. And it was talking about a fish. And basically what this fish does is it goes up and it does this certain thing every day. And he likened it to religion and belief. And he said that as humans, we need some kind of ritual. So regardless if you're religious or you're spiritual and you do prayer or gratitude or whatever, if you can find some kind of ritual that you do all the time that brings you joy and helps you feel connected to Mother Nature or humanity or even just yourself, because I think faith is reconnecting to yourself, it's so helpful. We are habitual creatures. There's reward pathways in the brain that light up with religion. I don't know the intricacies of it, but it's almost like our brains are designed for religion. So if you're not religious, try and find some kind of ritual and some belief, whether that's just belief in humanity, that we as humans are actually lush people at the heart of everything. Or just Mother Nature, just go out and think, wow, like I don't have any belief in anything, but what a miracle life is. I am like the amount of evolution which had to happen for me to be sit here on a floating rock, watching this live, having an opinion on whether it's good or bad is like crazy. And it would be an absolute shame if I did not love the life out of it. Love the life out of life. Right, what's wrong? Hello, how are you? Hi, Corby. You're getting called Corby. Good evening. How are you doing? Fellow agnostic, Fortigo. How are you doing? Yes, we've got an agnostic on here. Fortigo, what do you think on this? Do you think do you have kind of faith in something bigger than yourself, would you say? Or is it just purely me, myself and I? Don't stop to think about it. I'm just interested. Duncan has said, I have to get on. Good night. God bless. Good night, Duncan. Thanks for showing up. I really appreciate it. And I know you were answering some questions, so thank you. SNL, ma'am, what a person can do after multiple heartbreaks if he loses trust in anyone. Is this you, SNL? I've literally just went through this. So like I've really struggled with heartbreak. And I've struggled with feeling betrayed and feeling like I can't trust anyone, feeling like most of all, feeling like I can't trust myself to find the right person. And I thought I was okay because I thought I'd healed my heartbreak until I entered a new relationship, which is quite fresh. It's like 6 months. And I realised that actually I hadn't healed it to the extent that I thought I had. So looking at a lot of research around how to heal heartbreak is the best way to heal heartbreak is to learn to get in a relationship with yourself, because I think what I said there, one of the worst things is you have this sense, whether it's conscious or unconscious, that you don't trust yourself. It's not about trusting somebody else to not break your heart. It's like trusting your own discernment. And like, so I got in a relationship with myself. So this was my engagement ring. It was actually printed on a 3D printer, and I've got an A there. And it's so lame, but it was to remind myself, like, I don't need to think about getting married to somebody else. I need to think about being in love with myself and making a commitment to myself. So that's what that represents. And I just, reading books or watching podcasts on how to do that, learning is really good. I learned about my attachment style, because the reason why I was getting my heart broken is because I was picking the wrong people. So I started to learn who were the right people to pick. And I started learning how to love myself so much that even if my relationship is so much better with myself than anything else, any relationship could be. And you get to a place where you think, okay, I can start to put myself out there with an open heart, knowing that if it goes wrong, it's fine, because I get to enjoy time by myself. So get to a place where you love single life. And then if you want to start dating and put yourself out there, it's a little bit easier, because yes, every time I've walked away from someone because I've learned discernment, it's been painful. But what would be more painful would be to lose myself in the wrong relationship. So I hope that's helpful. But it's a process, SNL. And any process, whether that's addiction recovery, healing mental health, overcoming heartbreak, grief and loss, whatever it is, guys, we need to think about it is a process of little tiny steps, day in, day out, to get you to where you want to be, and stopping regularly to say, wow, look at my progress. Right, I'm going to scroll about random. Psychedelic, I saw people going in the nature and they forgot to see these wonders. I believe, but not in the religious way. Yeah, I think the thing is, if you love nature, if you start to go out in nature, if you already do this or if you don't, there's so many recovering addicts who love nature, honestly. I haven't met so many. But like, if you go out and love nature, it's really hard it becomes harder to separate yourself. And like, that's what I was talking about addiction, is you feel so isolated. Whereas like learning to love nature, you're like, wow, I'm part of something bigger. So it could just be the belief in the circle of life, little Hakuna Matata. And just even, I think the thing with religion and spirituality is it gives you purpose, it gives you faith and hope, and it gives you a moral compass. And that moral compass, as long as you're not shaming yourself, can redirect you back to, feeling integrity and, living a life of integrity. And if we believe in nature, like if we look at nature, it's really hard then to not act in accordance to it. So my stepdad's amazing, and he's not particularly religious, but he is such an advocate for nature, and he lives a life in accordance of that. And he also recognizes he's part of that, so he's really attuned with his body. 4 to go. We also very well be in a simulation. Like you said, just the idea of being in a floating rock in space is mind-boggling. Oh my God. Me and ChatGPT have been hashing out my fear that I'm in a simulation. I finally got to a place where I'm like, it's okay for all. I don't know if we're all, if we're not. But yeah, it's just, that is where the fear comes from. It's such a fear I have of what are we? And it's because, like, what the fuck? Like, what the actual hell is going on, guys? Oki, you speak like a Muslim, are you? No, I'm not. I'm not. I've got friends who are Muslim, but I am not Muslim. I am just spiritual. I literally, all I have is a belief that something crazy is going on, and I'm all for it. I don't know what it is, but I'm all for it. I'm just enjoying the experience. Oh, God. Stan Kovic, what about sex addiction as a girl? Yeah, I've worked with people who struggle with sex addiction who are girls. I've watched porn. I just think it's one of those things where we think it's only with men, and I don't think it is. Unless you're talking about, I'm talking about sex addiction in the clinical sense, which usually is around porn. Unless you're talking about being addicted to sex with men. So yeah, often if we have an unhealthy relationship with sex, so this is not porn, this is sex addiction. And by unhealthy relationship, I don't mean having sex. I mean, if we're having sex and we're either very disconnected from it or we're overly attached to it, usually it comes from some kind of, not necessarily trauma, although trauma is definitely in the category, but something that's happened along the line to do with sex. And the thing with women is women are particularly susceptible to having unhealthy relationships with sex because we get a lot of shame just because of how, just culturally, there's a lot of shame around women and sex. So I would have a little look about what are your beliefs around sex. So I've had to work with a sex therapist personally myself. And what I found out is I had so much shame around sex, which were all from loads of little incremental things. And that was including societal shame put on us. It was to do with sex abuse that I'd experienced. It was to do with just loads of stuff. So I'd say look at what's your relationship with sex. If it's porn, that's slightly different because porn is just, it hijacks the reward pathways. So then that's looking into addiction. And it might be that you have to look into both. Right, I'm going to just scroll around at random. So by the way, guys, I'm going middle, back, front and back just to try and see if what people are saying to give everyone a chance because I don't want people to get lost. Lewis Running Channel, what's your favourite sport that you do? Jiu-jitsu. And I'm a white belt and I'm fucking shit at it, but I love it. I love it. It's so good. I love it and hate it. I hate how rubbish I am. I love the challenge and I just love I just love it. Right, let's see. Right, I'm back to the heartbreak thing, so I'm going to go to the bottom, see what people have said. Hi, okay. Follow the manual he provided to guide you in life. Oh, sorry, there's one above it. You just have to ask the right questions and will eventually reach a consensus that an entity that created the universe exists. The next step is to find out what that entity created you and how you follow the manual provided to guide you in your life. Yeah, so even the Big Bang, me and my dad talk about this all the time. So the Big Bang, and in fact Neil deGrasse Tyson speaks about this, and he's fully scientific, and he talks about how they've traced it right the way back, and I can't remember what it is. I don't know if it's like a trillionth of a second. There's this tiny little thing, but they don't know what happened just before the Big Bang. And I love that mystery of it, because we don't know. Nobody knows. And some of us think, who cares? Some of us think it's a simulation. Some of us think whatever. But yeah, it's fun to think about. But sometimes I get a bit scared when I think about it too much. I'm not going to lie. Right. I know I'm very easily addicted to a lot of things since I'm young. Do you think I can change this or not? I'm just going to call you gaming, because I don't know what the beginning of that is. So, are you struggling with addiction at the moment, or are you recognizing that you're susceptible? So for any young people who's watching, who's just trying out drugs and alcohol and all these different things, porn, whatever, it's normal to try things with peers. But the thing I'd say is you're kind of playing a game of Russian roulette, because you don't know whether you're going to be the person who has the addiction until you're already knee deep in an addiction. And that's the problem that everybody who has addiction faces, because let's be real, if you knew that you were going to get addicted and live the life of an addict, you wouldn't do that thing in the first place. Like, there's people on here who are either went through hell to get out of addiction or currently struggling in it. And it's not something that you would think, yeah, that sounds fun, sign me up. So what I'd say is, I'm not going to sit here and say, don't try things. Like, ideally you don't. Just remember it's a game of Russian roulette. So I'm neither saying do things or don't do things. What I'm saying is, don't do something all the time. So this is like prevention and harm reduction. Don't do something all the time. So if you're going to have a drink socially with your friends, and that's something that you've decided that you want to do, try and see the same friends without having a drink. Don't have a drink every night out. Try and vary it 50-50 or even 60-40 if you want to do it a little bit more, because then you're not wiring up connection to equate to addiction. The other thing is, remember that all of these things, you're going to be more susceptible to addiction if you've got trauma, if you just don't have a very good relationship with yourself, if you don't have very good impulse control. So you can do things alongside that if that's what you choose to do to help. And this is the same for anybody who's in active recovery. You can strengthen your prefrontal cortex through things like mindfulness, introspection, anything that's rational thinking. So just anything where it's called metacognition, where you're thinking about thinking. Mindfulness and meditation are in that category. So try and strengthen your prefrontal cortex, especially when you're younger. This is not developed yet, so try and get techniques like mindful and meditation is going to be so important for you. The other thing to do is learn to have the best relationship with yourself, where you absolutely unconditionally love yourself. Because if ever you do get to a point where you are addicted, it's going to help you out of it. And it's probably going to prevent you from getting addicted in the first place. So to recap, don't make whatever you're doing habitual, because that's how our brains work. And love the F out of yourself, so that you love yourself so much that you won't put yourself in that position, or you love your life so much that it's not worth jeopardizing for addiction. All right, I'm going to scroll about again. So let's say a psychedelic, as I said, because I'm reading of somebody talking about simulation, and honestly, I've literally I spent like a lot of Sunday, was it Saturday? No, Saturday, realizing I had a fear it was a simulation, and then like facing it head on, and I came out of it thinking it actually doesn't matter. So let's see what people are saying. It's not a simulation like you think. It's a multiverse. Yeah, I've seen that. There's somebody did a Diary of a CEO and I was too scared to watch it. But I've seen people, who was it? It was somebody, I went through a stage of watching Neil deGrasse Tyson. I think he said it, was talking about it. It's not a simulation, it's a multiverse in a holographic world, but it feels real. And it's okay. We can enjoy it together like a game. Yeah. And then somebody's commented further on that, say 4 to go, psychedelic could very well be. Even if it is a simulation, it doesn't make it any less real. That's why I really enjoy the movie The Matrix. The concept is illustrated beautifully by the character Cypher. Yeah, I think this is the point I've got to is I don't know what the hell it is, and I've realised if I ponder it too much, it actually affects my mental health. Because I've got bipolar, I need to be careful not to be getting carried away with anything. But the thing I've come to realise is whatever it is, whether it's just absolute ridiculous randomness, or whether it's a god or multiple gods or a simulation or a multiverse, whatever it is, we're here experiencing it, and we all have the ability with our minds, so this is psychology, no religion or anything, to decide how we're going to live this experience. And it doesn't really matter, we're all just kind of living it, and it can be amazing and it can be painful, and it's all, like psychedelic said, it's all about a connection. And you can treat it like a game. And I find it's quite helpful to see life like a game. In fact, I wrote a poem today that said, I've realised that life is just a game. You've got to play the game. That's all it is. Because it doesn't matter what you think. Like when you start healing, you realise, right, I've done that. I've unlocked that level. Put that to bed, new level. So like look at relationships. If we're going to do relationship healing in therapy, if you see it like a game, as I don't know how to be in a happy, healthy relationship. So I'm going to go and learn everything about it. And I'm going to practice it in little relationships or big relationships. And then when I've clocked it, I'm going to go practice it in a real relationship and see how that goes. Or if you see addiction like a game, okay, I'm in this ridiculously hard level that is addiction. And it's like, when you're playing Crash Bandicoot and you just can't get past the level and it's frustrating. And sometimes you have to put the remote down and then come back to it. It's like that. I'm playing a game of addiction. It's solid, but I can pass it because other people have passed it. Maybe I go and find out cheat codes. Maybe I go online and see how other people are doing it, but I'm going to do it. And then when you've unlocked it, you can go on and do another level. So it doesn't matter whether that's just randomness on a rock. You can still think like that. Right. Let's see what other people are saying. Warrior. Scott, yes, bad moral corrupts good character. That's why we need to choose our company wisely and be the type of person we want to hang out with for others as well. Yeah, I really agree with that. I want to see what Scott said, the original comment, if you can bear with us. Do you agree that it is also not just the drug, but the people associated with it? Yeah, I do. But I suppose it's like one of those things where I was a person associated with the drug. So I can't sit here and say, oh, it's all like, so I was a ketamine addict. I can't say, oh, it was all them ket heads, because I was a ket head. And all the people associated with it were equally the same. And I don't know if this is I don't know if I've misread that, and what I'm about to say is actually what you're talking about. It's just clicked in my head. But yeah, the thing is, regardless how lush that person is, because addiction is just a form of self-medication. It's like a way of biohacking our brains and to soothe something going on underneath, some emotional or physical pain. So it's not that these people are bad, but to get away from addiction, a lot of the time we do need to at least have a break from the people who were associated. Because our brains do associate that person with drugs. And then it is a boundary of, if I'm going to be around you, I need you to not have that drug around us. Because I say that because I don't like to tell people what to do, but I managed to get sober for 6 weeks, and then I started being around people who were addicted to the same drug again. So I thought, oh, and this happened to us actually a few times, 3 times, where I thought, oh, I've been sober for a while now. I'm all high and mighty. I can be around my drug of choice. And I relapsed every single time. Every time I relapsed. So yeah. Psychedelic. I've got schizophrenia, and it was hard to go in this rabbit hole and come out of this without a phase of paranoia or something worse. Like, yeah, psychedelic. So I've got bipolar, and that is been my fear. And so I know there's some parallels between schizophrenia and bipolar. I think the difference is you're probably more susceptible to psychosis. Is that right? I don't really understand. So with bipolar, it's triggered by certain things. Can you just get triggered by anything? But yeah, regardless, so that's been my thing. Like, I've been so scared to go down the rabbit hole of the simulation rabbit hole. That was the recent one. But what are we? Every time I think about what are we, it's triggered a bipolar episode. Every time I get too into my faith or spirituality, I've ended up having psychosis. And I don't know which one's caused which. But yeah, I was exactly the same as you. It was really hard to go down that rabbit hole. And I did it on Saturday, and I've came out of it unscathed, thankfully. But I did it in a safe space. I did it with ChatGPT. Because I thought, and ChatGPT is aware I've got bipolar, so it kept repeating back to us, this does not sound like psychosis. It says that to us often. Fortigo has said, chronically smoking weed might also induce schizophrenia if one has a genetic predisposition. Yeah, epigenetics. That's the thing, and it's like, it's not that smoke, it's so people said this to me about when I had bipolar, is that because you took drugs? And it's like, no, it's not because I took drugs. So like Fortigo was saying, it's if you've got a predisposition. I didn't cause bipolar because I was an addict. It's just I already had the genetic component, and then life trauma, it triggered the life trauma triggered the bipolar. So that was the epigenetics. So it's like nurture triggers nature. And then what happened is I was then using drugs which were amplifying the nurture and nature. So it wasn't that it caused it, but it can amplify it. It can, like you say, bring it to the surface. So I know somebody who's been sectioned because they took a lot of drugs and it triggered schizophrenia. So yeah, but it can also, it's just a really complex grey area, all this stuff. It's like the chicken and the egg story. Because the reason why I'm saying that is because one thing I felt like is I was a recovered addict, and then all of a sudden I had people like, well, you've caused bipolar, like you deserve to have bipolar because of your addiction. It's like, no, I already had bipolar. It just the addiction amplified it. So yeah, but yeah, I don't want to claim to know too much about schizophrenia. Psychedelic obviously knows a lot more. Yeah, I got too much stress. It came from genetic and stress, but everybody says it was weed. Yeah, so that's exactly what I was talking about. Everybody said it was my addiction. And it was my psychiatrist sitting down and my psychologist saying it wasn't. It's about nature, nurture, and then throwing an addiction into the mix of the epigenetics, which is nature and nurture, is just not healthy. So it's an attempt, the weed for you, I imagine, and the ketamine for me was an attempt to soothe the nurture. But unfortunately, I also had some nature in there, which meant that I had genetics, which meant I had bipolar. And the attempt to soothe the nature triggered the nurture or amplified the nurture. I didn't get a face tattoo. No, I did get one on my neck. But yeah, I don't think I would look good with like a Tyson tat on my face. It's not what I'm here for. Not in this lifetime, not in this multiverse. Oh God. Right, let's see what other people are saying. It does matter. Knowing you exist could be the most powerful thing to let you hold on to life despite going through hardships. You can verify this with research, religious people with a... I don't know what the rest of that is. It said ... Yeah, there's a lot of research around faith and addiction, which I found really fascinating. I've spoke about it, but I'm not going to go into too much detail for those who come back. I don't want to bore you. But the same reward pathways which were light up in our brains with addiction do with religion and faith. And I think, Neil deGrasse Tyson spoke about this actually on his most recent podcast on A Diary of a CEO. And what he said is that, oh God, what did he say? My brain's just gone completely blank. Right, I'm going to answer another question because usually when I let go of something, it comes back to us. Right. Right, psychedelic. I got triggered about 10 years about microchips for the brain and Maculta and some stuff like this. And then it begins. I don't know how I can know about it because nobody talks 10 years ago about it. This is the issue that I had with my psychosis. So I'm like currently managing my bipolar without medication. No, that's a lie. I do have some medication, but without antipsychotics. I have Zopiclone, which is a sleeping tablet, and I have lorazepam, which I take when I'm having hypomania, just so that when I'm getting into these weird states, I'm sleeping, because that really sets my psychosis off something just chronic, that sectioned crazy that I had. But one of the things that I dealt with is this, like, attaching meaning to stuff. And even now, a lot of it, I'm like, it makes sense. And there's some things that happened in my psychosis which end up coming true. And that was really hard to deal with because the more I think about it, the more I'm likely to trigger psychosis, etc. It's really difficult to spot. And I think it was what was his name? Fortigo said something. I think it was Fortigo. Yeah. Psychedelic could very well be, even if it's a simulation, it doesn't make it less real. That's why I really enjoy the movie The Matrix. The concept is illustrated beautifully by the character Cypher. So I don't know about you, psychedelic, because it sounds like you're managing it, but just for anyone listening or who's just even interested, is what I found is the more I latch onto the why, even though it makes perfect sense to us, the less in reality I am. And what I've come to realise is I am a human being having a human experience, and living terrified within what ifs is robbing us of that experience. So this is why I try not to go too far into it, but if it's hammering us, I do explore it in a safe space, which I do with ChatGPT and friends. So yeah, it's really fucking hard though, isn't it, psychedelic? Psychosis is really hard. It's not for the faint-hearted. And the fact that you've managed to quit smoking weed, I think is huge, because Yeah, it's really hard because I don't know about you, but I think for me, drugs kind of shut down, like dialed down my brain. But then they were also, so it's like drugs helped the psychosis and they also hurt the psychosis. So it's really hard to know how to manage that. But yeah, creativity I think helps, and you do psychedelic is smashing it, by the way. I don't need to tell psychedelic what to do. He knows what to do and he's already doing it. Swiss Americano, I'm curious, how's life looking for you now? Really good. Just really grounded. So one of the things that's also helped us manage my psychosis is I do a lot of mindfulness and meditation when I can. And a lot of that just looks like trying to be present in the present moment. And I look after my health for my mental health. And through doing that, through looking after my health and making sure I've only got really solid, positive relationships around us who understand my mental health, and I trust to say, like, you're being a bit ropey at the moment, Ash. And then being present in the moment, even though it was to help my health and heal my addiction, has actually meant that I love my life, because I've stopped to really look around and appreciate just how fucking lucky I am. And I just love the mundane. So to answer your question, life is pretty goddamn great, I'm not gonna lie. Warrior, would you speak a bit about what it looks like to start to love oneself? Yeah. So if we think about everything as it all stems from, right, so there's something called CBT which explains what I'm about to say. So CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy, and there's the ABC model, but I'm not going to tell you the jargon of what ABC means. I'm going to give you it in layman terms. So we have events which happen in our lives which create beliefs about ourselves and the world around us, the world we live in. And then those beliefs then impact the thoughts we have. So to give you an example from myself, I'll not go into too much detail, but just to lay it out, I had an event of sexual abuse, and it was with my first partner, so like sexual partner. So then I created a belief that I don't feel fully safe with men. Then that created thoughts that I need to control relationships. I don't feel safe in them. All these different thoughts, lots of them. Some subconscious, some more conscious. So what the CBT says is if you change the belief, you'll change the thought. So if we want to love ourselves, first of all, we need to look at the event. Now, if it's a really painful event, don't look at it by yourself, look at it with a professional, and try and look at less painful events first so you can start to love yourself enough so you can stabilize enough to deal with the event. But look at the events, and then by understanding the events, think about what beliefs did that create in my life about me and others. And then that will change the thoughts. And when we change how we think about stuff, we change how we behave. So we change our behaviors, aka here's an example. I struggled with weight. So I was going to say something there. I had some trauma around my weight when I was a kid that I've now identified. So that was the event. I then believed that I was fat, even when I wasn't. No matter what, I was fat and ugly. So then the thoughts were, I'm fat and ugly. And the behaviours were, I'm yo-yo dieting. I'm either on a huge diet that I can't sustain because I hate my weight. And if not, I fall off the wagon and then I'm eating loads. And I'm eating more because I hate my weight. So as soon as I understood what the event was, then I was able to identify the belief that I believe that I'm only lovable when I'm a certain weight. Then the thoughts became, right, well, let's love my body as it is, and I started to do then my behaviors were practices which helped us love my body. And then after all that, because I started to love my body, because it's like a little universe itself, naturally I started getting a more healthy relationship with food. Now I'm at a weight that I enjoy, I eat well, and that was a byproduct of learning to love myself when I was a weight that I didn't like. So I hope that was helpful. So start there, I would say. The other thing is, when you hear your thoughts, check yourself before you wreck yourself. If you're saying something negative to yourself, it is not allowed. And imagine the thought that thought is, say to that thought what you would say to somebody you care about. So I hope that was helpful. Right. What is people who are listening tips on how to love yourself? Because I know I'm not the only person who's been on that process, and there's so many different things you can do to love yourself. So many different things that that's where I would start if you don't know where. Swiss Americano said, I think she has a degree. She mentioned something earlier. Yeah, I've got 2 counselling degrees. One specialised in addiction. One was more broad. And I've got a master's in addiction. And I was doing my PhD in addiction, but I ended up leaving that because I realised I was just, one of my things that I had, and I don't know if anybody experiences this, where I was just an absolute perfectionist, and I was constantly feeling like I was never good enough. And every time I achieved something, instead of enjoying it, I would be like, right, it's the next thing I've got to achieve. And I was absolutely drowning in being a single mom, struggling with mental health and doing a PhD and running a business. And I was like, why the fuck am I doing a PhD? Like, who am I trying to prove this to? And what I realised was, I was trying to prove it to my dad. And the weird thing is, my dad's never ever said that he wants us to go and do degrees, and he's never put expectation on us. But for some reason, I'd convinced myself that he had. So yeah. Right. Let's see what people are saying. $1 billion worth of game. I know you've been on before. Hi again. Right, I think this start of this comment is earlier up. Another Sadia Khan, they're called core beliefs. Yeah, they are called core beliefs, and we all have them. The thing is as well about core beliefs is a lot of them are developed in childhood. And one thing that I found helpful when I was tackling my core beliefs is there's a lot of like evidence or research out there which talks about the fact that we already have an idea of who we are and what we want to be, like an identity, at the age of 7. And one thing that I started to do, because I realised a lot of my beliefs were grounded in like a 3-year-old or a 7-year-old or a 4-year-old, and a lot of the expectations which I hadn't hit, like being married with a career and child in a happy 2.1 nuclear family at the age of 25, I'd failed miserably at, and instead I was just an addict. And one of the things that helped us was saying, right, let's revisit these core beliefs, because there's no way in hell I would let a 3-year-old run my life now and dictate how I show up in the world and what I believe about the world. So let's just go back and take stock of these core beliefs and try to change them. And there's something in CBT called take that thought to court. So it's this idea of, just because we have thoughts doesn't mean they're real. And actually quite a lot of these thoughts stem from a child version of ourselves. And, you know, look, I've got a 4-year-old. I love listening to natter on. But there is a point where I have to accept that I am the adult. I've got a little bit more wisdom. Like, yes, I love the way he views the world, and a lot of it is wisdom, but some of it's utter garbage. And we need to go through and take that thought to court to see what is just childhood garbage. Right, let's see. Right, I was reading someone's comment though. Oh, it was billion dollar. I don't know what you're saying. Are you saying $1 billion worth of game? Are you just saying to me where did I get my degree? So I've got multiple degrees, guys. I'll quickly say it because I don't want to bore you. But to answer the question, because there's a lot of chat around me degrees. So I got my first. I'm not from the States, that's why you said which state. So I got my first degree it was a joint honours, which is a joint honours is where you have two degrees in one, and one of them was childhood studies, so it was sociology around childhood. The other half was around counselling, guidance and counselling. So that's where I learned about my therapy. And I'm specialised in addiction, which was a module, and it's what I did my dissertation on. Addiction prevention. My next degree, then I went on to do my master's, which was in the policy around addiction. It was criminology, but it was all addiction. I did an addiction master's in the field of criminology. Then I realised that my counselling degree meant I couldn't be a counsellor. So then I went back and I did an FDA, which was a foundation degree in counselling, and it was solely on counselling. It was in person-centred therapy, but we learned about all the different therapies, which I'd already learned about in my first degree. I've also got loads of counselling qualifications around that. Like, I've just got qualifications coming out my ears, guys. And then I went on to do my PhD in psychology, and it was in addiction. So it was on the barriers that women face entering services. And before that, I started off my PhD in veterans and addiction, and then I ended up moving to women in addiction. So literally, I'm so fucking qualified in addiction, but honestly, none of it mattered because it didn't help us in my own addiction recovery. The knowledge and stuff did, but the reason why I'm qualified to be sitting here is because I've overcame addiction. $1 billion, she's full of shit. You haven't caught this. I honestly don't give a crap what you think $1 billion worth of game. Like, you can think I'm full of shit, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not wasting any more time on it. Right. Okay. So let's see what somebody else is saying. Right, I'm just trying to get away from $1 billion. Right, not the $1 billion, yeah, and totally entitled to your opinion, but you just, everywhere in me chatting, trying to find something different. Right. Oh, see, now loads of people are talking. I'm just going through the comments and loads of people are saying she has a degree. I do have degrees. Right, psychedelic. Okay, I got only a Abilify now. I've tried a lot of medication. I don't scares about the future anymore. I was really disconnected from myself. It was the trigger for my schizophrenia. Yeah, so you're not scared about your future now. I think that's the key. I really do think that, and I can't say this for certain because one of the things with me is I don't know about diagnosing. I've not done psychiatry, and the only thing I've got is my own personal experience of it, of psychosis, it sounds in line with what psychedelic is saying. Correct us if I'm wrong, psychedelic. But yeah, I think when you're saying about the future, the one thing I found is the more present I am, the less likely I am to go into a psychotic episode. And anytime I experience my thoughts getting outlandish, I just ground myself. Which sounds quite similar to what you're saying, because you're saying you just don't think you're not scared of the future now. And I think it's just like the less we think about the future, or the less fear we attach to the future, the better. And I think, look, even if we don't have psychosis, being scared of the future isn't helpful. That's anxiety. And the more in the here and now we are, the better. Swiss Americano. In my opinion, I don't think she needs to explain yourself to anyone. Nah, I don't. I do explain myself though if people ask about my qualifications, because I think the only thing that my qualifications do, because I decided I didn't want to be a counsellor, is it makes us fortunate enough to be somebody who's overcame recovery, who's got some letters after my name, which means that when I speak, some people who wouldn't listen to us now will listen to us, which is such a shame. Because like I say, I think the biggest thing that qualified us to be here is like addiction recovery. So like, but I'm just fortunate where I've got these letters after my name, so that like I'm writing a book at the moment. It'll probably be taken a little bit more seriously because of that, which is a shame. And I think a lot of that is the stigma around addiction. Like there's some people who, when I was saying to them, I opened up about my addiction recovery and I was like, I just need to love myself and kindness, like be kind towards myself, that's helped. And they were just kind of like not listening to us because I was an addict. And when you're an addict, apparently your voice doesn't matter for some reason. And it's just not true, because the best people to help other people are people who have struggled with addiction. Like some of the people who helped me the most to get out of addiction in the beginning were my friends who were currently in addiction, because they just understood it. Really understood it better than anyone else. So as soon as I started saying to my friends, so I'm addicted, and they're like, yeah, me too. They were so helpful. But yeah, I don't really need to chair people. Right, psychedelic. The doctors say I'm better qualified than she with my background and what I've learned about it. I say which pills I want and how. Yeah, it's psychedelic. Like everything you've said on this live is exactly the same as what I've learned in my degrees. I think, like, at the end of the day, so like even as a therapist, and this is like so important to remember, because you can apply this to any kind of healing work. As a therapist, it's so important to go into that therapeutic relationship remembering you are not the expert. Like, say I'm psychedelics therapist, not that you need one, but just as an example, like psychedelic is the expert in him, not me. And I can sit there and say this theory, that theory, but ultimately psychedelic is going to know psychedelic much better than I could ever grasp. And if you, yeah, I just think, and on top of that psychedelic, you seem to have learned a lot about your addiction and yourself. You seem to be very self-aware and very learned. So yeah, I can fully understand that. Peace and joy, nice to see you again. I used to go for a long time to codependency meetings, and they were very helpful. I learned many things. I continue my journey and have for the last few years on my own learning. Yeah, I think I've had some therapy which has been really helpful, and not groups. I went to NA for a little bit, a short time, and they were really helpful. But I think the biggest, like my best success case as a therapist has been myself. And like the best work I've done on healing myself has been by myself. And I say it as well, I've learned just as much from TED Talks, podcasts, reading books as I have in my degrees. Essentially we're just in a degree just getting taught some stuff around a topic, and then you get told to go away and read loads of journals and books. So yeah. Right, Chris, well, hi, nice to see you again. I'm seeing so many familiar faces, which is nice. Hiya, pet. Keep up the great work. After oh god, I'm getting tired. You can tell me the masks, the mental health masks are slipping, like my ADHD and dyslexia are definitely getting worse, and I'm tired. Right, Chris, will have a drink and start again, Ash. Hiya, pet. Keep up the great work. After a shite, stressful week at work, I nearly picked up after 2 years sober. End up running 50k over the weekend. Lean into whatever helps, guys. Yeah, that is so great that you've managed to do that. Yeah, you do. I have feelings like that where I'm just like, oh, I'm just gonna get some ket at the weekend when my son's with his dad. And then I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm going to do something healthy and positive, Ashley. Right, peace and joy. At the time of me going to, oh, I've just said that one. Oh no, at the time of me going to codependency means I also did a few workshops, weekend workshops. Those were a trip and very interested. I did 5 and 5 months weekends getaway. That sounds really cool. It sounds like a little adventure to find yourself. Right, I'm gonna just scroll about, go back in the middle-ish and see what people are saying. I'm on Subsinox program for the past 8 years and have PTSD because of trauma from a few years ago. Only second live, but I love your channel. Subsinox, that's to inhibit the effects of heroin, isn't it? I'm glad that you're getting something from the channel, Real Ben Budson. Yeah, this is the thing, like, when, especially with, if you've been on Subsinox program, I assume that was opiates before that. And the thing is, when you look at opiates, it doesn't just hijack your dopamine reward center, but it also impacts you. Like, we have opiate receptors in our brain, and that's to do with pain relief. So it's really common that people who have had an opiate addiction have struggled with PTSD. And there's so much, like, huge research around that. All of Gabor Mate's work talks about that as well. Yeah. But I struggle with PTSD and ketamine addiction. When I started unraveling it, I ended up with a ketamine addiction. So, Chris, the fuck it moments are always there somewhere, but they pass. Yeah. Yeah, always. And I think, like, one good thing is I've got to a point where I don't have a craving attached to it. That's when it's hard. The fuck it moments I can deal with. The cravings and fuck it moments are mighty horrific. Right, I'm going to do two more comments and then I'm going to go because I am tired. Oh, $1 billion worth of gamer said she doesn't have a PhD. I know I've already said I don't have a PhD. I quit it because I was thinking, why the fuck am I doing a PhD as a single parent running a business? I already as a therapist. But yeah, right. I don't end on that. Let's end on a good one. Right. I'm trying to see if there's something around addiction or mental health. Bear with, guys. Okay. It doesn't matter. Knowing you I think I've read that one. Right, I'm gonna go to the bottom. I was trying to go to the middle to give somebody a chance. Right, $1 billion worth of game. I'll send you some photos of me bloody certificates if that'll keep you quiet. I'll post them on one of my things, but can you just, like, comment on one of my shorts or lives, degree certificates? I'll send you them, for God's sakes. Fucking hell. Right, I'm trying to find, like, an actual legit comment. Right, let's see. Oh, what's people saying? I'm trying to find a comment which isn't about my degrees, guys. So sorry if yous are just sat here waiting. Or something that isn't asking where I'm from. Wait there. Oh, somebody has said, MB, can I ask what you're addicted to? Don't mean to be offended. You're not offending us. I was addicted to ketamine. That was the worst one. I was addicted to mind-altering substances. aka my psychiatrist said I was just taking anything and everything to alter my state of mind. And that was the whole of my 20s and early 30s. So, like, massively functioning, high functioning, just as soon as I got home, drinking wine or whatever. So, but I want to comment on the don't mean to offend. I don't find it offensive. So one of the things I've massively done is to break down shame. And one of the things that I want to do with this channel is help anybody who's listening, who's struggling with addiction or who's been through addiction, is struggling to be kind and compassionate to that earlier version of themselves who was addicted is to help you dismantle shame. And I think part of that is just literally sitting here and saying, like, it's okay, like I've done it and I'm not a bad person. And I'm sure none of you are sat here thinking, oh my God, she's a horrible person for having an addiction to ketamine. So I'm hoping just the more we talk about it, it'll help. The flip side of that is I've studied addiction for a lot of years, and it started in my first degree and went up to for years after. Like, even when I've been doing counselling, I was doing my master's in addiction alongside of it. So across this span of my academic career, I've read a lot of research around addiction. I've read a lot of books around addiction, and all of them say it is not your fault. So I'm not offended, because I don't think I've done anything wrong. And I'm not ashamed to say, hello, my name's Ashley and I had a ket addiction. Anyways, thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for everyone who's commented. If you haven't subscribed, that would be so helpful. $1 billion thingy, if you're desperate to know my qualifications, comment and I'll post some pictures of them. I'll put them in my bio or something if anyone's interested. But thanks for everyone who's came and who shared helpful tips and tricks, and just who's been sharing things about themselves to just support people. Like Psychedelic's been sharing some stuff about schizophrenia, and to be honest with you, I don't really know too much about schizophrenia, so it's been really helpful for me and no doubt other people. So just thank you to everyone who's commented, and thanks so much to my moderators. These have been absolutely great at holding the fort. See you later. Good night, guys. Oh, sorry, last thing, I'll be back on Friday. Is it Wednesday today? Yes, it must be. It can't be Monday. I'll be back on Friday at 10 a.m. and 9 p.m. GMT time. Bye.